Hello everyone, Carlos here. Welcome to the Tech Brief for the second week of August. Given that it is the second week of August, that means that we went through Patch Tuesday from Microsoft. I did a separate video on that one with a call to actions, given that Microsoft actually reported 6 vulnerabilities that were actively being exploited. So that means that we have to go through the motions of doing threat hunts for IOCs for those vulnerabilities, given that we are going to be spending some time while we test and patch our systems that actors are already abusing these vulnerabilities and have been abusing these vulnerabilities for quite a while. So it's important that we have a good threat hunting program and that we're proceeding with that. We have also CVE 2024 38063. This vulnerability in specific is a zero-click Windows TCP RCE, and it was found by Kunlun Labs at China and reported to Microsoft and their local authorities. This is a big one given that it's a zero-click RCE and it's in the TCP IP stack, specifically around IPv6. So if somebody's able to gain local access to your network, Windows by default has IPv6 enabled with linked local addresses for the machines, and this can be exploited for lateral movement, for privilege escalation inside of your environment. So it's very important that we address this vulnerability and patch it as quickly as possible. Now, moving along, let's go over now to OpenVPN. OpenVPN has multiple vulnerabilities that were found by Microsoft and reported by them to the project. First one is CVE 2024-27-459. This one has a CVSS score of 7.8. It affects OpenVPN 2.69 and earlier, and it actually allows an attacker to send data causing a Stack Overflow, which then can be used to execute code on the target system under higher privileges than that of the service itself that is running OpenVPN. So this is a very big one. We have CVE 2024-24974. This one has a CVSS score of 7.5. Again, it is for OpenVPN 2.69 and earlier, and allows the OpenVPN service pipe to be accessed remotely, which will allow a remote attacker to actually interact under the privileges of the OpenVPN service itself. We have CVE 2024-27903, which allows an attacker to load an arbitrary plugin, which then can be used to interact with the privileges of the OpenVPN service. There's another vulnerability, and this one's not on the OpenVPN service itself, but the driver that gets installed in Windows, which is for CVE 2024-1305. It has a CVSS score of 9.8. Now, this one affects the Tap Windows driver version 9.26 and earlier, and it allows an attacker to either crash the driver itself, which is a denial of service attack, but it can potentially allow for arbitrary code execution in the kernel space, given that it is a driver. With everything that has happened so far with CrowdStrike, this is a big one, and we're kind of like familiar with what happens when we have bad drivers. We also have a vulnerability for Ivanti. Ivanti. Yeah, we've had quite a few from them this year. So we have CVE 2024-7593. It has a CVSS score of 9.8. This one is in the Virtual Traffic Manager, the VTM, which focuses on application traffic management, also for load balancing, and this one has an authentication bypass. There's proof of concept available for this one out in the wild. It is not being actively exploited. Ivanti hasn't linked or shared where this proof of concept code is, but does mention that it is out there and patches are available for some of the versions, not for all. In typical Ivanti manner, they're just slowly putting out their patches for the multiple burnable versions of the product itself. So do check if you use this product with Ivanti itself. Look inside of their knowledge base and see if there are patches for your version of the product and test and patch appropriately. We also have vulnerabilities on Zoom. Given how remote work has become so popular, this tends to be a very big target now for attackers. we have CVE 2024-39825. This one has a CVSS score of 8.5. We have a buffer overflow in some Zoom workplace applications and also in room clients, which will allow an attacker that already has been authenticated and is part of a call or part of a session to conduct an escalation of privileges via network access. This affects both Windows, Mac OS, and in the case of Apple, it also affects iOS and iPad OS versions. We have CVE 2024-39818. This one has a CVSS score of 7.5, and it actually affects the protection mechanism for the Zoom workplace apps and also for the SDK. And it may allow an authenticated user to conduct information disclosure via network access. This one affects the same versions as the previous one. So this will affect, in the case of desktops, both Windows and Mac OS. It will also affect, in terms of embedded devices, iOS and iPad OS. So it's recommended that you test and patch this and go through your inventory to make sure that you're not affected by this vulnerability. Now, in going to the news, we have that the National Public Data, a data broker that helps with background checks, have been hacked, and the information of over 2.7 billion users has been made public. Well, not users, but people that have gone through the process of getting background checks. This includes information like their social security number, criminal records, and other type of personal information. And now what makes this data unique in terms of a data set is that it's already sorted, organized, and it has been made available completely out to the public in the dark forums. So this means that this data is going to be abused specifically for opening credit card accounts and then abusing the credit of these people. It can be used to open fake identities for other types of services. So I highly recommend that you go in and you put a credit freeze in your for your social security number, so you don't get affected of people just abusing your credit. Now, moving along into the news, and in this case, we're going to be talking about a bit of supply chain attacks and some of the risks that are out there, specifically when we're coding all of our own applications and making them available for customers, or we're consuming applications from third-party developers, is that if we go into GitHub and we list all of the NPM packages and the malware, we're going to be seeing in GitHub advisories there's quite a large number. In the last couple of weeks to a month, we're talking over 1,000. And this is a serious concern and that we need to be aware of. I recommend that you work with your development team, go over the GitHub advisories and make sure that you're not using any of the NPM packages that are listed there as malware or burnable, to ensure that you're safe in your environment, because we're seeing all kinds of different packages. Some of them will grant access, others will act as info stealers, others are targeting specifically crypto wallets. So we have kind of like a wide myriad of multiple types of malware that are being reported and by GitHub itself to the different projects. So make sure that you go through those advisories and make sure that you're not affected by this. So this is the end of the tech brief. I hope that you found this information useful, and I'll see you in the next video.